Hey everybody, this is a little bit different from the movie reviews I've been doing lately, just because. And the hair is actually not so bad tonight. The hair is not so bad. Wait a minute. Wait, lies. Hang on. Okay. Alright, not so bad. Not so bad. Um, so, uh, my friend and I went to New York City to see Porgy and Bess with Audra McDonald on it because I will watch Audra McDonald win the phone book. And through a series of events, Audra McDonald ended up not performing the night that we went, so we scrambled and got a refund on those tickets and bought tickets to see Death of a Salesman. So this is a review of Death of a Salesman. Now, before I go into the review, let me say this. I'm sure through the magic of Facebook, somebody that I'm Facebook friends with knows somebody who worked on or is involved with Death of a Salesman that is playing in New York currently. And I just want to say, I don't care. I paid $75 per ticket for two, so I'm going to say whatever I want. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but you can go pay money to see it then, and then you can make your own little video about it. Because God knows when I criticize Sutton Foster, oh Lord, the the ceilings caved in on me of Facebook hell. All of us, they were flocking. Apparently, I'm friends with like Sutton Foster's mother, and I didn't even know it. Anyway, um, I will say this: I think anybody that would know anybody that's in this production of Death of a Salesman is not going to be unhappy with this review because I pretty much liked everybody in the revival except Philip Seymour Hoffman, who plays Willie, uh, the actress Linda Emond, whatever, who played Linda, and Andrew Garfield, who played Biff. So if you know those three, then you know some pretty famous people, and I don't know why you would be friends with me on Facebook. And they were the three I did not like. And I also did not like the direction by Mike Nichols. And again, if you know him, then I don't know why you're friends with me. You should be. Just, if you're friends with Mike Nichols and you're worried about what some goofball from Rhode Island thinks about his production, then I don't understand you. Anyway, um, so yeah, as you can probably have told from my foreshadowing, I did not like this production. I wanted to like it. I wanted so badly to like it because when you buy tickets to see something, you of course really want it to be good. And I thought, oh my god, Death of a Salesman on Broadway. It's not like what we planned on seeing, but it'll be so good. Granted, I kind of stopped being a Philip Seymour Hoffman fan probably around Capote because Capote, I was never really a big fan. Anyway, he kind of got Kevin Spacey syndrome, where he started to believe his own hype, and then every movie after Capote, which was like the apex of his career, kind of the quality of his performances just kind of went down. It's not even that they went down; it's just that that whole like everyman kind of thing that he had going for him was just gone. And despite the fact that he continues to be a rather overweight schlub, uh, you can tell he kind of thinks he's a badass now. Let's start with the fact that he is too young to play Willie Loman in the play. Willie says, "I'm 60 years old." Philip Seymour Hoffman is 44 years old. That's a 16-year age difference. That's pretty significant. Especially considering, 60 now does not look like what 60 did when the play takes place in like the 1940s. So really, Willie, I think, should look or be played by someone in their late 60s, if not 70s. Because Philip Seymour Hoffman walks on stage, and right away he's trying to sort of, create this 60-year-old physicality, and he's doing it in very sort of cliched ways, like, art, oh, the back, oh, my back, and let me move slowly, and you're just going, you're too young for this role. Like, let me think about it. He's playing someone 16 years too old for him. Imagine if he were on Broadway starring in a show and he was trying to portray a 28-year-old. People would not have it. They would say that's crazy. Maybe in Rhode Island they would have it because he's Philip Seymour Hoffman, and they'd say, well, who cares? But this is New York. This is Broadway. Play something age appropriate. Don't, or wait 10 years and play Willie Loman. But it kind of destroyed the whole show because the whole point is that Willie can't work anymore, and he's this broken down guy, and he's out of chances. And Philip Seymour Hoffman looks like he could work and be fine, and you're like, go get a job, you look fine. Likewise, Andrew Garfield, who's playing Biff, says, "Oh, I'm 34 years old," and Andrew Garfield doesn't look 34 years old. Now, I looked up the ages of him and Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's 28, so he's only playing someone 6 years younger than him. Again, 1940s, 34 looked older, so it probably should be somebody in, like 40 or in their 40s or something. But okay, so whatever. But he also has a baby face, and that's an issue. Uh, it's not that I didn't like Andrew Garfield. It's that he kind of has Christopher Walken syndrome. There were a ton of moments where he reminded me of Declan from Revenge. He just where it's this concentrated effort to act and also come across as being cool. Um, Everything was sort of filtered through this like, do I look cool? Do I look cool? Thing. So you have Philip Seymour Hoffman who's trying to like, you know, be Willie and embody Willie, and he kept okay, but this was a anyway. Okay, so there's that. Then there's Andrew Garfield. Now Philip Seymour Hoffman uh, was doing a sort of New York accent, kinda. Andrew Garfield was doing a very believable, much more um, present or prevalent, sorry, New York accent. And then came Linda Loman. Now, I was really excited when they announced that they were doing this. Mike Nichols directing Death of a Salesman, American classic, Philip Seymour Hoffman, who granted is, an A-lister, and Andrew Garfield, who's also now an A-lister, he's going to be Spider-Man. I thought they were going to go out and get this amazing Linda, and they got someone with some theater cred, but not that amazing. And this woman thought that she was in a production of, I don't know, a Kaufman and Hart show or an Oscar Wilde play, because she walked out and not only didn't have a New York accent at all, but sounded like she had just stepped out of her graduation at Juilliard. So, she would say things like, attention must be paid, which is a line, but it, Linda has these beautiful speeches, and if you say them in this sort of neutral accent, you sound like you're Judi Dench, and that's what happened. So she seems completely out of place, completely detached. A big problem is that nobody in this family unit. Now, there's also Happy, the other son, who I liked a lot. I thought he did a really nice job. But there's no. I felt like nobody in this family unit actually liked each other. I felt like I was watching a play about a group of people who have grown to absolutely hate each other, and so I wasn't really rooting for anybody. Um, then we get to the direction, and this is the second Mike Nichols play I have seen on Broadway, the first being The Country Girl, that I thought was very poorly directed. And I don't know if Mike Nichols is just losing touch with how to. It was so. First of all, I would say there was music underscoring about. All right, let me be conservative here and say 60% of the play was underscored by music. So it all had this very cinematic direction of it. And to me, if I were a film director primarily, who used to direct plays and now is like coming back and directing plays, I would try very hard not to make it cinematic, because I wouldn't want people saying, "Oh, he doesn't know how to direct plays anymore," which is what it looked like. All the sort of memory happened in the front of the house, which was pushed back, and so it was like the house was very naturalistic, and then everything else was sort of like abstract, and so everything was very cramped. Any other scene that didn't take place in the house was all sort of either stage left or stage right extreme, and it looked like it was two different shows. And on top of everything else, everything had this pattern. It was like, I'm Willie, and it's like, Biff, Biff, I love you, Biff, Biff, I love you, I love you, I love you, until I was screaming, and then, some sort of extreme physicality, and then release. And then, oh, I'm sorry, Biff, I'm sorry, Biff, go down. And I would say Philip Hoffman screamed through most of the show. And it was so clearly a crutch for him. Like, it was so clearly, I can make you think I'm a good actor because I am just going to scream my way through this show, and you will say that it is intense and it is brave. It was also about 2 hours and 45 minutes long, because there were so much milking, and scenes that clearly did not need to be as long as they were far too long because Philip Seymour Hoffman was just taking his time, no interest in keeping the ball afloat, keeping the pace good, just letting everything drop and drop and drop. And I went into this. The really interesting thing is that, and I'll admit this, I had never seen Death of a Salesman before. I had never seen a movie version. I had never seen a play version. I never even read it. I obviously know the story, but it's just one of those things that always kept passing me by. So I thought, how amazing that I get to go into seeing this production with no previous opinions or knowledge, and I can just and let me tell you something. If I didn't know that this was an American classic, I would have seen this production and said, "Wow, what a terrible show this is, and why did they revive it?" Uh, but I know that there in there is a really great show. I just am astonished at the amount of poor decision making that went into this production, from casting to direction, like just across the board. Um, and I'm wondering, and if this is the case, then it's really sad. But I'm wondering if this is just a typical example of like Philip Seymour Hoffman wanted to play Willie, and he's a big enough star to make it happen, and Mike Nichols can push through anything, and he's not, and but and this was all in previews, so things could change. Now the problem is, to me, the biggest issue is that Philip Seymour Hoffman is miscast in this role, and so is Linda, and Andrew Garfield could probably do a very nice job with two other people. Um, because I would have to say, out of all of them, Linda was the most detached. I mean, she just didn't look like she cared about her sons, her husband. She was totally detached. She should be playing like Mother in Ragtime. She was so terrible. But anyway, yes, it's in previews. Things could change. But with those two leads and that sort of misdirection and the way they've just set up the whole set, and why did they need to revive this show? I mean, it's okay to revive it, but why did they need to revive it when there was a really amazing production of it with Brian Dennehy that was kind of considered like the definitive production, like about 10 years ago, if that? I don't understand. Anyway, that's my review. So if you're going to go to New York or you live in New York and you want to see that show, man, figure out a way not to pay, because it ain't worth it. That's all.